we're going to move pretty fast through the report so we can get to the movie. If you want to just kind of look over the agenda, you all should see it on your screen right now. You're going to have the welcome call to order, read and approve agenda. We're going to do the secretary report, treasurer report. We're going to watch the movie. And at the end of the movie, the director and star of the film, Dr. Susheel Bibbs, will come in and talk to us, answer questions, and then any other announcements we want to make, and then we'll make a closing, and then we can make a bunch of noise. Can I get anybody want to unmute themselves and make a motion to approve the agenda? And someone else can, okay, or we can do it that way as well. We can do raise of hand. I saw Mary Ann raise her hand. Here, I'm gonna
I'll second the motion.
All right, show of hands. All in favor? Okay, great. Approved. Wonderful. Okay, so move on to Carolyn. You can read the minutes from last month. You need to unmute yourself though, Carolyn.
All right, let's try this again. Meeting minutes for February 10th, 2021. The meeting was called to order at 7:06 p.m. by President Bill Hare. The agenda was read. Gail Indvik moved to approve the agenda and Richard Santos seconded the motion and it was passed. Carolyn Tiernan read the minutes from the January 13th, 2021 general meeting. Richard Santos moved to approve and Daniel Cosper seconded and that passed. Joe Ehart presented the treasurer's report. Current total assets were $63,185.18. Richard Santos moved to accept and Daniel Cosper seconded and that passed. Mayor Richard Tran swore in the following officers and directors of the Milpitas Historical Society for 2021. President Bill Hare, Vice President Catherine Pellizzari, Secretary Carolyn Tiernan, Treasurer Joe Ehart, Archives and Head of Educational Outreach Programs Joe Ehart, Historian Joanne Souza, Membership Daniel Cosper, Programs and Publications Catherine Pellizzari, Special Events and Public Relations Harriet McGuire. The presentation was by Ted Ramos. He presented a history of San Jose gambling based on his book, Images of America, History of Gambling in San Jose. His presentation started with the beginnings of gambling during the California Gold Rush in 1849 and covered saloons and clubs in the early 1900s to prohibition and protection money to modern day card rooms. At one point, there were 19 card rooms in the area. There were no announcements and the meeting ended at 8:58 p.m.
All right. Just a show of hand, one person wants to make a motion to approve. Okay, that'd be Daniel, and somebody want to second? Okay, let's give it to Myrna, that one.
Is that Joe?
Yeah, I'll give it to Joe. Yeah, I think Joe probably just beat her by a second there. Just looking to mix things up a little bit. Okay, speaking of Joe, turn on your mic and give us that treasurer report.
Okay, so I'm gonna just basically just go over the highlights. The details that'll be on the screen, and I'll just go over the highlights. Okay, so the overview is we have 40,000 in the CD still. Our general checking, as you can see, is just under 20,000, and that's basically into two categories. Unrestricted funds are the funds that the society can use for actually anything that it wishes, as long as is within the guidelines of the bylaws. We have a special fundraising activity going on now with Elaine Levine, who is one of the co-founders of the society. She passed away, and So that money is going to be restricted to doing something specific in honor of Elaine Levine. And so as of the end of February, we had $980, but that's still growing. Basically the MCM donation, we have a second checking account. I call it, in effect, our collection account. It's what we can use to maintain or purchase new items for the collection. And we have just over $4,500 there. And when we do have events, physical events like meeting in the library or things, we need petty cash if we're doing book sales and things. So we have $100 in petty cash. So we're just over 64,000 in financial assets. And this is just the details of that account that I mentioned, what we use to maintain our collections. And you can actually see 2 expenses in January, which I'm just kind of showing a running annual balance here because there's so little activity in this account. And we actually picked up some coins that, these are actual United States currency coins that coincide with the opening of the two schools, the Milpitas Grammar School on Main Street, the original one, not the one where the library is, and then also Laguna School up on Bill's property. And briefly here, I'll just focus on 2 things. Previously we had, anyway, we're collecting, continuing to collect money in Elaine's fund. And as a matter of fact, that should actually say, for year to date, that should say 880, because now we have 980 with the $100 there. The second thing that's notable is the Milpitas Charity Bingo, which is, we earned $1,130 during the month of February, which was kind of nice. And I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. So at the moment, our income is actually almost down at the bottom in the blue and red. Our income so far is just under $1,500 more than we've actually spent this year in the first 2 months. This is the fundraising activity. And the last 2 items that you're seeing there, those are the items that I was reporting for the month of January, February. Okay, and that's the treasurer's report.
Great. Okay. Everybody back on screen here. And can I get a motion to receive the treasury report? Okay, Danny Cosper, and a second on that. Okay, Richard Santos, all in favor? Okay, we'll say that passes. And all right, I think we're right on time. I told Dr. Bibbs that we would be about 8:15 that she would come in and we'd start the thing at 7:15, and it's right at 7:15. So great efficiency, folks. Now let's see if we can make this movie play. That would be the exciting part here. Okay.
Major funding for this program was provided by the National Park Service Underground Railroad Network to Freedom Program, the California Council for the Humanities, the Oakland Public Library's African American Museum and Library at Oakland, the Film Arts Foundation, and Charlene Cooper Cohen.
There we go. Hey, everybody. That was very nice. Thank you, Joe, for recommending that. And we actually have Dr. Susheel Bibbs has joined us. Hello there.
Hello there.
That was awesome. I'll tell a little bit about our guest. She is a graduate of Boston University School for the Arts and the New England Conservatory of Music. I have many friends who went to NEC myself. Has served the arts and humanities for over 30 years, and she does so many things. She is a internationally acclaimed opera singer, an Emmy Award winner, and it says once was the youngest executive producer on the PBS system for a major international series. Was that Zoom?
Yes.
It was Zoom. That's
Yes.
That's just such a part of my growing up. I mean, for the last almost 50 years, I've had a certain PO box and zip code in my head because of that.
Do you remember what it was?
Box 350, Boston, Mass. 02134. Send it to Zoom.
Sticking with you.
Oh yeah, that has drilled into millions and millions of kids' minds and stayed with us. And so many other things. And we just saw the movie. The movie was just fantastic and just wonderful. So I will turn it over to Dr. Bibbs if you want to tell us anything more about what we just saw, and we can open up for questions.
Well, I think that my plan is to answer your questions. We can consider Mary Ellen Pleasant, the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks combined. You know, when you look at what she did, Martin Luther King, because she could love across boundaries of race and class without losing sight of her goal, and the cases that she tested in the courts, you know, after the 1863 civil rights laws that she coordinated with the Franchise League. So you can see that. You can see how when she went to help John Brown and all that, her personal investment in stopping slavery by any means necessary. There's that Malcolm X. And also the idea of Malcolm X too of self-determination, how she put people into businesses and you know, tried to help everybody have African Americans in San Francisco have their own businesses. Um, and of course, Rosa Parks because of the great trolley case.
Right.
And, you know, this kind of sums her up, you know, in terms of how you can look at her in her time. In our time, Sue B. Thurman, the wife of Dr. Howard Thurman, felt that she would still be in the foreground of whatever was happening today. We can easily see her as part of Black Lives Matter or as working in some way to forward the rights of others. She was controversial. She was not one thing or the other, as I tried to explain. She had a way that is not today maybe sanctioned, but a way of reacting. She one time when the country was near the Civil War and they wanted to take over the silver mines because they got munitions from Quicksilver. And you know, Thomas Bell, her partner, was called the Quicksilver King of California. He had inherited many Quicksilver, mercury mines. And so when she heard that they wanted to take over the mine, she just said, "Well, scorch it all," you know, just not that she didn't want to help the union, but that was not one of her ideas. It was really that, you know, she had to do with rights, and she didn't feel they had a right to do that. Well, we don't have to agree with her. We just have to see who she was and some of the things that she did. Another thing that, you know, she was able to do was an amazing thing when you think that in her time, an individual African American person could not even get a mention of their wedding in the paper. And this woman commanded full page articles. There was a serial once of her life in 23 episodes in the major papers. So she was a phenomenon in her time. She was an unusual person that you can't really compare with others. Also, what she did with John Brown, we might look at, because she could have just collected money, and she did send her money to Nantucket to collect when she got over there to give to John Brown. She wasn't able to give it because her friend William Gardner had squandered it, but he didn't tell her until too late. But she did collect money, give it to John Brown for munitions for his work at Harper's Ferry raid. But she didn't stop there. And that's something to look at because she didn't have to ride down herself into southern Virginia to tell the slaves that John was coming. But she didn't trust anybody but herself. She felt, well, they're not going to trust him. If he's going to get help in this strange endeavor, then I'm going to have to do it. So that's an interesting person, you know, very daring, a very committed individual. That's all you could say. So she wasn't one thing or the other. You can't say she was good. You can't say she was bad. But she did some wonderful things. And she did some things that helped us today because that case that we saw, as you heard in the film, came to be used in civil rights in 1981, and it changed modern day civil rights law for us in California and ultimately across the country in terms of getting monies for pain and suffering for discrimination. So we can say that she left us a great legacy and perhaps leave it there. And
Great.
answer your questions.
So everybody, just to remind you, if you go up to your top right corner, there's something that says view. If you put it into speaker view, whoever is speaking will be kind of on the screen. So if you're seeing everybody right now, you might want to go into speaker view right now for the rest of this. Also, if you have a question, make sure you unmute yourself before you start talking and you'll automatically come up on screen. I had a question I was interested in. At one point when you were talking about her being the manager of the boarding house, she passed as white, but the trolley driver drove by her because she was black. How was that work in?
We can only, I knew this question would come. It always does. I conducted a 2-year study on what she really looked like. And what it turns out, and I did, when we look at it, is she confused some of the issue because she would send proxies of all different colors to the Sharon trial to stand for her. So there were people who didn't know her would say, well, she looked like this. And then others that said, oh, she looked like that. But I did a chart during that study and found that everybody who knew her said that she looked more like a Native American, that she did not look, that she looked like a mulatto. Then we have a poll that was run by an author who really I don't respect in terms of what she wrote, but in terms of her research, I respect greatly. And it is said that Pleasant looked very much like Queen Emma of the Sandwich Islands. Queen Emma came to the United States in 1865 and had her pictures taken. Well, it turns out that around that same time, a little bit earlier, Pleasant had her pictures taken in garb that looked like Queen Emma, and Salem Woodworth's brother, who traveled a lot, was going to Sandwich Islands, which was Hawaii, and wanted to take that picture and did take that picture with him because he felt that she looked like Queen Emma. Now understand that Queen Emma was a mulatto woman. She was very fair. She was not very dark. And he supposedly took this picture, but he died en route. I understand that when I went to the Sandwich Islands, when I went to Hawaii, there were pictures there. There was at least one picture there that had no, what do you call it, no in film, others had negatives, and this one did not. But a picture that was taken at that time was taken by a detective into his collection, and he wrote on the back, Mrs. Pleasance, and he's somebody who knew her for 30 years. He put it in his rogues gallery because he was always trying to find something that she did wrong, find out what she did wrong, because she always did things. And so we have one other thing that's interesting, and that is Helen Holdridge took that picture, put it in a lineup of people, many octogenarians and those in their 90s at that time that she could locate who actually knew Pleasant, who were around her a lot. She put that picture in a lineup of many pictures of various colors, and she asked those people, does anything look like Mary Pleasant? They all picked that one picture. So we can draw some pretty interesting conclusions from those things. That she wasn't a person who was very dark. She probably did darken as she aged or change her makeup or whatever she did. But she also said, and this I will end this. I can only end it with research. I can only tell you about my research. So I'll end it with the last part of my research, which is that in her memoir, which was never published, I have three sets of her unpublished memoirs and letters. She says that she looked very white when she was young, that she passed for white when she was in Nantucket, and she said that she sang in the white choir in Boston and that nobody ever would have suspected that she was not. So this is what she says. And that's all we can say. Is given that record of what people who knew her said. And there were many people who were asked that question who knew her. And when I did the chart, all of those who knew her, besides the picture lineup, said that, she was not very dark, that she was a person who looked as a woman. Gertrude Atherton, you might know of Gertrude Atherton, who wrote a social history at that time, said she was of the high yellow caste, which means a person who looks like me. Yeah. So we can conclude there.
All
And
right.
Atherton didn't like her. There was nothing about her that Atherton really liked. She simply wrote what she saw when she met her.
Great. Anne, you can just speak up. Go for it.
Hi, I'm just kind of curious about this, her kind of social blackmail, getting money from the rich for good causes based on what she knew about them. Have any of these come to light, or is the fact that she's not very well known perhaps related to this of having powerful people maybe squelch her inclusion in history books?
Well, first of all, she is well known now. She is in the history books.
Now, but I'm thinking growing up, I don't remember the
Well,
name.
she was just a person. I mean, they wouldn't have put her in the history books back then. Um, but she always stayed in the background and manipulated things. That was her way.
Have
So
any come to light?
come to light. Can you explain what you mean?
Any of these so-called bribes or blackmail that she put on?
No, not,
I'm just curious.
no, because it was different from what you're thinking. Um, One of the things that she did when she first came to California, served as Mrs. Ellen Smith, boarding house proprietress. She really took care of a lot of the young men. There were 6 men to every woman, and they all lived in these boarding homes while they tried to make their fortune in government and in merchandising and all those things in California. And she took care of these young men in several homes. They became the governor and Governor Alford and the mayor of San Francisco. I'm sorry, um, Mayor Alford, Governor. Can't think of his name. It'll come to me. Anyway, but the idea is they became city luminaries. Now, what she would do is just simply it was more like they knew that she knew where they came from and many of the skeletons in their closet. So what she would just say is, why don't you do this? And they had respect for her, but they also knew that they didn't want her to necessarily put their business out. And so they would do what she said. So it was a little different, than what you're thinking of as blackmail. It was more political persuasion, you might say. There's a story, an interesting story. At the end of her life, they told many stories. Well, when she died, there were many stories in many of the papers. And Sam Davis, who wrote down, was the scribe for her last memoir. He was the comptroller of Nevada. And he wrote a story that tells you a lot. At that time, Pleasant had lost a lot of her clout, given that many of the people whom she had helped had, when I'm talking of the white luminaries that she had helped, who really did respect her, had died at that point. Her political base was not there. And he said that, still around that time, they would send her invitations to their events, but she never went, of course. But one time she got this idea that maybe she should accept. Of course, this was delusion, but she did. And she went to this party that she was invited to with her invitation. She arrived, and the hostess almost dropped what she was holding when she saw her. And she realized the woman was so embarrassed that she grabbed a tray and started serving people so that the woman would not be embarrassed about her arriving as a guest. Now that's quite something. So we have to look at the continuum of what we're calling blackmail, because it really wasn't exactly what you're thinking. And so nothing would have come to light that would have been called blackmail. Example would be she had copied some of the things that Marie Laveau did. And one of the things Marie Laveau did was have a rendezvous haunt called the Maison Blanche. And there she would have very wealthy men come and meet young women some of the placage, some of the arranged marriages at that time between mulatto girls and Creole men were forged at that time. Well, Pleasant thought she might try that when she got to California. So she had a place called Geneva Cottage. You had to pay $500 to get there, and you had to wear a tuxedo, and she would have these girls that she had groomed for the people to meet and be with. Well, a little later, some of those guys had married those women. So they knew, that Pleasant knew the skeleton that was in that closet. And they became great luminaries, in the city. So you have to understand what leverage, she was leveraging things. And she didn't say, if you don't do this, I'm going to tell about Lizette, right? Lizette Fleur was one of those people who was married to Selim Woodworth, one of the richest men in San Francisco. And Lizette was the woman whom Pleasant was supposed to meet and get on the trolley with at that point for the trolley case. So when you realize, kind of what was going on, it was more like what she knew they did not want to stir up. So let's just do whatever she wants. She likes colored people. They used to say she's the woman who really tries to be an advocate for the colored people. That says something too about how they perceived her in terms of her appearance. So they thought, oh, let's just do what she wants. Let's just help them, So that is that kind of thing that she would do. A little more subtle than overt blackmail.
Let me share a photo of Queen Emma.
Yes, do you have one?
Yes.
Do. I have many, but I don't have, yeah. Oh, that's an interesting photo because she's got her hair curly. She doesn't usually wear her hair curly. That's a little bit later in her life, after she returned, after 1865. Yes, yes. Definitely Queen Emma. They all emulated Queen Victoria, too, in some of the ways that they dressed. After her husband died, she wore black and she wore certain things. Yeah, that's definitely Queen Emma. Maybe not as she looked in 1865. She looked a lot younger and had straight hair. Well, she had her hair straighter, let's put it that way. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe is also the one who recommended this movie to us.
Well, thank you, Joe. And I want to take this moment to thank you for looking at it. I really have a fondness for that film and the film that came before it. I often will do a short film and then do a longer one, which incorporates the short one. And I love the short one, the half hour, but this one is probably my favorite of all my films. And so I really appreciate it because it's not new, so it can't go out on film festivals, but it still plays. It was renewed until 2024 on PBS, so it's still out there. Thank you.
Yeah, Danny?
Yeah, so most of the film was setting was like on a stage in a theater. Was this actually written as like a play or something at one time?
No, no. The most of the film was set wherever it was set. There, it incorporated a staged production of My Chautauqua. So it just simply interwove that. You know, I did it all over the world on stage and in all kinds of settings, you know. And so this was one which was put on a theater and staged to be filmed. And then it was interwoven into the film. So the parts with Pleasant were on a stage, yes.
Well, it really gave a sense of personally knowing that character, you know, and
Those were her words.
yeah, it was fantastic. I
Thank
enjoyed it.
Yeah, in a Chautauqua, you know, which I was hired to do by the California Humanities, and you have to look up the words of the person, and then you become that person, you know. But then after you do that, I love the Chautauqua format because after you do that for about 45 minutes,
Yes.
then as you know, then the character, answers questions from the audience. That was my favorite part.
Well, I bet.
On the fly, I had to think of her words and how she would answer a question, and just answer as the character. And then at the end, you go off and you change clothes very quickly as they read your bio. It's like Superman in a phone booth. And you come back and as yourself, and you answer as I'm doing now, questions about the character. I love doing it. I still do it. I did it last in 2019 for Pillsbury Corporation. And they had a closed circuit TV all across the country. And I just enjoyed that so much. I went down to San Francisco and they had me perform, and then they did a closed circuit to all their employees.
Well, if you ever to do that again, let us know here at the Milpitas Historical Society.
Well, I definitely will. I've done it for many historical societies and I've done it at the Marines Memorial, and I've done it in little theaters and all, you name it, colleges. There's also a musical version because Pleasant, as I think you may have heard, I'm not sure. I didn't hear the first part, and it's been a long time since I've seen the film. But she was a singer in her youth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I found that out, she made I think she mentioned that she was a paid soloist, and that's her first husband came to hear her. I think that was in this film. Anyway, once I realized that, then I created a musical, a one-person musical on her life with a pianist and a drummer. And I love doing that one. I did that one last year. No, nothing happened.
It really came across.
No, I did it in January last
year. Personal, it touched me. And
I'm glad you liked it. I love doing that. I love doing that show. She's got a character, and her words tell you who she is, the way she speaks and the way, when you read her words, she has a certain lilt and a certain accent, a series of accents. So the stories about her coming from the South and then going to Nantucket and then going to the West have to be true because you find all of those patterns in her voice, in her speech. You find Southern expressions, then you find Nantucket. Nantucket people don't really have an accent. I use the Downeaster accent to give you the sense of the East, because there is really not a strong accent in Nantucket. It's like Connecticut, right? Go, well, what?
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. And so, but when you hear the West, you hear a lot of Western ways of saying things, you know. So it's very clear her travels and that sort of thing.
Wonderful. So I have in the chat window at the bottom of your screens, you see where it says chat. I have put links to both the movie and Susheel's book on Amazon. And also, did you want to tell us about your foundation as well?
Oh, sure, yeah, the Living Heritage Foundation. When I left UC Berkeley, I taught there for a long time in communications, technical communications area. Um, I wanted to help. I went back and I had been doing my career also in parallel with that, and I wanted to help other artists who took the time to do arts, professional artists who took the time in their careers to do arts that related to the humanities, you know, history, historical things that were valuable, especially those about African Americans and women. And so I formed the Living Heritage Foundation, which is a nonprofit, and we give grants and fiscal sponsorship to professional artists who want to expand their careers in a special way. It's like we honor them. You know, it's not that they have to do another project, humanities project. Most of them do. We just had one very well-known singer, Karen Slack, some of you may know, who just did a movie, a 40-minute uh, production on civil rights heroines, and she sang, and there was drama, and there were readings, and it was marvelous. And we had paid for her research, and we're just about to fund another very famous singer who wants to do something. It's an operatic performance that reinstates the history of the Black church, which always did sponsor operatic performances. In fact, that's where I heard my first opera performances and got my first scholarship was in the AME church. And some of you have heard of that church with the recent series of on PBS. But it was always they had always classical music in the AME African Methodist Episcopal Church, and so she's going to do an interesting recreation of that and the history of the Black Church and classical music. So there are all kinds of things that can be done, and those are the kinds of things we try to do with people. You know, we're bringing very soon a national master class with Osceola Davis, the soprano who made most of her career in Europe, and she's going to teach students who are and young professionals who are advanced all across the country. That's not been done. That's going to be on Zoom. And so we try to do things that enrich their careers at the same time enrich the careers, our programming, arts and humanities. So that's the Living Heritage Foundation, and it's just, you know, our you can always look us up by just the livingheritagefoundation.org. Um, and there's a small website that I put together to give you a quick look at the foundation. And then there's a link there to our large, you know, vetted website for the Big Day of Giving. So we have a huge website and we have a small one. So livingheritagefoundation.org. Thank you. Thank you for asking me about that.
Sure, sure. Yeah. And I think we will be making a donation to that as well. I made one personally, and everybody else is welcome to do that.
We want to thank you for that donation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, we like to support our speakers as well.
Well, thank you. It'll come back to you. It'll come back to all of us because that money goes towards projects that enrich our own, you know, our programming. And I appreciate that so much. Thank you for doing that.
Great. I see Robert Burrell clapping in there. He's a filmmaker as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Did you want to unmute yourself, Bob?
Yeah.
Unmute
yourself.
Robert, you're muted.
Mr. President, Bill, this is Dick Santos. May I make a comment?
Yes, you bet.
Thank you, Joseph, and Bill, thank you. Not only was I entertained, I was educated in it, how this timing could be more appropriate. We're talking about civil rights 100 years later, but it's never too late. And Miss Bibbs just did a fantastic job. I'm just so delighted to be here to be able to hear this. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really thrilled. Like it's like you have little children. These are little children, and this is an older child, and so it's really great to have that appreciated because I do love that song.
Great. Okay, yeah, Robert Burrow there. I see your mouth moving, but you're not making any sound.
Uh-oh.
But he's unmuted. He is unmuted. Sign language? All of signs? Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
No, thank
Yes,
you.
Brenda.
So, Susheel, I noticed that the performance was dedicated to, is it your mom and dad, the Bibbs?
Oh, my mother and my brother.
Yes. And were they themselves people of community activism?
No, my mother was a teacher who ran also a clothing bank for the community. So she was a person who was socially aware.
Yes.
And she was your mom who was the brownie leader and all of that too. The church, Sunday school teacher, the whole bit. My brother was a well-known singer of ballads, and a photographer. So no, he wasn't. He was not an activist of any type.
Oh, well, to me, she was an activist because she was spreading the good message of helping others and helping people of your community. So
Yeah, no, that was my mom. I mean, she always, she didn't like bad behavior, but she loved to help people. And
yes.
children came in if they didn't have, clothing. She would go around and make sure to collect clothing so that they would have clothing that they could take home. So she really is a person who cared about people.
That was a very great performance. Thank you. Thank you for enlightening us.
I appreciate it. Thank you
Yes.
very much. And as I said, I so appreciate your showing the film.
Yes.
Well, great. Anybody else have any other questions?
I do. It looks like you're in a studio. What is?
Yes. This is where I work.
Oh, tell me about that. I don't know.
Okay, well, I think I mentioned that I can just show you a little more here closer up.
Grammy over there.
I'm a Grammy Award winner, yes. And this is the studio here. My wife actually uses this side now to teach her 6th grade class remotely. Since we're in the COVID time, I can't really have people come to record, and I work mostly via the internet anyway because I work internationally. So I've given my wife the other side for now while she teaches school from, and it gives her a nice soundproof space. And yeah, like I think I mentioned to you, I've had many great opera singers in here. I had Frederica von Stade in here. I've had oh man, who
well, that's good enough. Frederica is good enough. I'll never forget one time I was coaching in not too long ago, and in walks Frederica for her coaching, and I I did not want her there, but she was there.
Yes, but she's so nice though.
Yes, she is.
She's so down to earth. She's so fun.
Sat through the coaching and liked the music, and I was just dying. But anyway.
Yes. And I actually got to work with her a couple years ago in a performance too. I actually played bass in a American premiere of an opera written by an Australian,
Hmm.
Requiem something, I forget. But yeah, but she kind of came out of her semi-retirement to sing that,
Yeah.
and
Comes in and out. She sang something in Hawaii not too long ago and got great reviews.
yeah, well, she was in here. It was over 10 years ago, and she was basically retired. So I don't think she retires that well.
No, no, she doesn't. But it's a good thing. The way she does it is quite nice. She will tell people that she's retired, and she'll say, I haven't been singing, and then she'll sing and blow everybody away, and it just I think it eases any kind of sense of nerves by being able to do that.
Oh,
Which
exactly. Yeah, and in fact, this Grammy Award,
yes,
she actually sang on that.
she sang on. What was that for?
This was Christopher Tinn's song cycle called "Calling All Dawns," and we did it with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra at Abbey Road,
Oh, good.
and a lot of other great singers and instrumentalists around the world. There were about 200 people involved in that project, um, and it won the best classical crossover album of 2010.
Well, congratulations.
And then I got a few more with like Pentatonics, if you've heard of them. I work with Pentatonics. I work with did an album with Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and quite a few others. So I've been at it for a long time.
Well, it's good to see, and I'm just, I'm very curious about other people, so I just have to ask about all sorts of things. I'm very interested in others' careers as well. So thank you
Sure.
all. I can't thank you enough. And if there are no more questions, I'll just wish you all the end of COVID and wonderful year. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
so
you.
much.
So much.
All right. Great to see you. Yeah, and I'll just leave the room open for a while if everybody just wants to chat or whatever. Our social hour can begin. I will say, we'll just to do the official closing. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay. I saw Mike and Danny. Okay. So Mike Pelzari, then Danny Cosper. And did you get that, Carolyn? Okay. And then, yeah, all in favor, just hold on a second.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Aye.
Good.
Bye-bye.
All right. So how is everybody?
Great.
Good,
That
better
was fun.
educated now.
That was good. I'm really happy that that all worked out.
We're sorry we're late.
That's all right.
Did you catch the video?
We caught the end of the video. I wish, did it start with her birth?
No. I mean, no.
Oh, I told about her, yes.
Told a little bit about her,
Yeah.
but it quickly moved into her adult life.
We arrived just as she was arriving in San Francisco.
Oh, no, there was more to it before that. which
Yeah.
East
So
Coast.
there's a link in the chat there where you can find the you can rent the movie for $1.99, which is actually what I did, and that's what I was playing. I was playing that directly from Amazon.
Oh.
I don't know how far your chat goes back. Can you see it in the chat? Sometimes if they arrive late, they don't see the earlier.
Oh,
Yeah, we've got it. I saved it. Yeah.
Yeah,
oh yeah, no, we got that link.
we
but
got the link. Yeah.
What else,
Mike?
what else was in the chat?
Just those two things.
Oh.
There's a bit more early. Oh, no, that was me.
Yeah.
Saying
There's
that.
no-
She was born a slave and went to the Northeast. Was it Nantucket but basically found herself coming across and coming to California about the time of the gold rush.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
She basically lived all over the place.
Yep, she did.
Right? She was
No,
in
I-
Boston, she was in Nantucket, she was in Ohio, I think, for a while, and then New
Mhm.
Orleans.
New Orleans,
sometimes,
right.
And then San Francisco. It sounded like she
That
But
was hard
not
to move around
Milpitas.
back then.
I forgot to ask her if Pleasanton was named after her. You know, it's Pleasant Town, you know, it's
Yep.
two sounds. I'm just curious whether anybody knows where the name Pleasanton came from.
There's Bob Earl.
Okay, so that's the switch I'm
Night.
looking for. Can you hear me
There
now?
you are. There you go.
Yeah.
Now we can.
No
Hey,
longer
you should-
mute.
Well, I can't tell if the sound is way behind me someplace. That's someplace else. Anyway, this inspired me to think that we could get together and we could do our own screenplay to do our own play about the history of Milpitas. And Bill, you could play one of the lead people. You know, you could be Mr. Weller, the man from Milpitas.
And you could play the monster, Bob.
What's that?
I was so hoping you'd be able to tell her about the Milpitas monster.
Well, it's out there. That's for sure.
We have a choir director who's managed to figure out how to do really good, I would call them screenplays. You know, getting different people singing different parts, because he's playing the piano and then they sing their part and recording it, and then they bring it all back together and do a mix of everybody singing when they weren't really singing together in the first place.
Pat Loomis did a whole bunch of descriptions of Milpitas people from 19.
Oh, we know that.
It's in her Loomis book. The characters in her book would be what we'd write about.
The little cornfields.
I want to be the man from Milpitas.
Homework.
How about something on Harriet Tubman, Bill?
Bill, Bob, who?
Bill,
Yeah,
how about finding something on Harriet Tubman?
was she in Milpitas?
No, but the documentary on her.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have a $20 bill with her on it soon. Hey, to answer Ann's question, John W. Cottinger, an Alameda County Justice of the Peace, named Pleasanton after his friend, Union Army Cavalry Major General Alfred Pleasanton, with an O. A typographical error by a recording clerk in Washington, D.C. apparently led to the current spelling.
Okay.
Interesting.
An interesting thing about our neighboring town.
Yep. That is
Where my parents live. My parents actually live in Pleasanton now.
Yeah, my brother used to live out there.
And my aunt and uncle are in someplace near that brand new mall that's off of 580. Apparently there's a big senior living area there.
That's where my parents live.
Yeah.
Right across the street.
Everybody has an aunt, uncle, or parent
At
up there.
Stonebridge Creek.
Yeah, that area.
All right.
I'll find out if they know each other.
I'm sure they do. Let's trade names and we'll see.
They're Peterson.
That's where Don Peoples lives.
Oh, Don Peoples moved there, huh?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he lives in Pleasanton. He
Just
he
think
has-
of the characters that we have in town that could be in a screenplay. I mean, Mabel Mattis for one.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got a part. Don, yeah. Everybody's got their own part. Everybody can be who they are.
You can play
Be fun.
Mabel Mattis.
Very neat.
Hard to duplicate Mabel Mattos, wouldn't it?
Well, no, you just do
Just
what you did, you know.
Just get some apricots and start canning.
Yeah.
Come on now, get on with it, she would say. Get
So
on
many
with it.
business teams start handing out apricot jam.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so many wonderful aspects of Milpitas. I mean, look at Denny Weisgerber from it. What a Story. I mean, come on. There's Bob McGuire.
Robert Burrell. Who's going to play you?
Yeah.
Nobody can do that. Oh, my twin brother can play me.
He does have a twin brother.
And Gabriel has all the photos.
I think there's some good seeds there for a really good idea, you know. So the early part of Milpitas as it became a town, 1950. It's a good story. Everybody wants to go back to happy days.
Was it 50 or 54?
54. Yeah.
54, January 24th.
Started before that. I mean, I think the the activity.
I've been here since 42, so that's good.
Oh, yeah, well, it was a township for quite a while. I mean, come on. I mean,
Until 1954.
Yeah.
We drove through Milpitas all the time. We drove from Oakland to Boulder Creek all the time. Back
And it was known all around the country. I mean, it was
smelled bad.
The man from Milpitas was, made it into so many newspapers and stories. It was, I don't know how.
Yeah.
I probably
Elaine.
know
I
this.
think it was Mr. Weller's who it really was. Mr. Weller was the man from Milpitas.
Elaine, didn't my grandparents come in 1906?
Yeah, well, that's all part of it.
Perfect time to show up, especially if it was before April 18th.
Right after the earthquake, yeah.
Yeah.
And then to become a town, we had to ask permission to count the people in the jail so we'd have enough people to make it happen. Great story.
Thank you.
Okay, Joanne, take care.
You're gonna come and lock your screen after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we've got a seed here tonight. Thanks very much.
Here we go.
Thank you.
This was the pre-production meeting, huh?
Yeah, we need about 4 to 5 people around a table, and somebody takes notes, and we just go for it. Brainstorming. That's how we wrote the Milpitas Monster. My kids got together and said, "Okay, what's going to happen next?"
I'll take care. It's okay.
There is a group at my church that each pretends to be some historical character, not necessarily from the same period in history. And they each have a script that has them talking and discussing matters among each other, which is kind of a fun way to do it. You can do that with Zooms. What I'm thinking is you could have each of us playing a role, and talking to each other. And you can take the Zoom, people can either watch in Zoom, or you can take it and put it into the Facebook page for the Historical Society, and people can watch it there and not be, crowding the Zoom screen.
Well, the motif of a play, just like you saw tonight, would be a good way to do it. Maybe it's a character like Mabel Mattis that sits down, and because she knew everybody in the city. I mean, she knew everybody in the hills. And Belma Valencia knew everybody in Main Street because she worked at the Cozy Kitchen. So look at the characters in town. It's waiting to happen. And there's Scotty Campbell's bar. I mean, what else do you need? I mean, come on. It's all there. Anyway,
Just need a script, Rob. Make a script.
I'll do a scenario for you. That'll be good. But thanks very much. I'm still got to figure out some buttons here on the machine though, because I don't understand what I just pushed to make this happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm holding down the speaker.
Yeah.
Same as system, built-in line-in, built-in digital input, and then I touched the HD Pro webcam C920.
Yes.
Oh.
Is that the unit that I bought with you?
Yes. Yeah, it is, Bob. That's it. And it has the microphone and the camera.
Okay, but for some reason the speaker is coming out of my tower computer behind me. That's where I'm hearing it. Nothing. Where's the speakers for this?
There are no speakers in the camera. The speakers are in your system. Yeah.
Okay, so
part of the monitor. Yeah.
I mean, I got some nice speakers in front of me, boys speakers. I like to hear from them. Okay, I've figure out which one.
Keep hitting buttons.
System set up for sound. And Mike, you kind of have to go in that. You're on a Mac, right?
Yeah, I'm on a Mac, but I like to sit down, go through these and see if I can find the right one, because I should be able to use my voice speakers here so I can hear nicely. Yeah. I can barely hear a small speaker that's behind me. I can barely hear you.
Yep.
It gets confused. I even sometimes get totally confused when we try to do it with the TV, and when we screen share the TV, the sound comes and the picture comes from the TV. The picture is also still on the iPad, but not the sound. So I couldn't turn the TV sound off because I would have no sound at all.
So can we do a practice Zoom, maybe with Joe and you, Ann, maybe?